crowd had turned wild so quickly that Paul barely saw the first blow coming. One moment he and Silas were walking through the marketplace, relieved that the young slave girl had finally been freed from the spirit that tormented her. The next moment, angry voices rose, hands grabbed them, and they were dragged through the streets as if they were criminals. Soldiers pushed them toward the magistrates. Accusations flew, disturbing the city, teaching unlawful customs, causing trouble. There was no trial, no chance to speak. Their clothes were ripped away and the rods came down hard. Pain exploded across their backs. The ground seemed to spin as they were hauled, bleeding, toward the prison. The jailer, a broad-shouldered Roman officer with a face carved by years of discipline, received them with a short nod. Keep them secure, the magistrates ordered. He knew what that meant. No risks, no mistakes. He led Paul and Silas past the outer cells into the inner dungeon, the place where no light entered except a thin thread of darkness. The air smelled of damp stone and old hopelessness. Without a word, he fastened their feet in wooden stocks, cold, unforgiving, and designed to hold them in an agonizing position. When the door slammed shut, the darkness swallowed them. For a long moment, neither spoke. Paul could feel blood drying on his skin. Silas took a slow, painful breath. In any other prison, the silence of night would have settled heavily, broken only by groans or curses. But here, something unexpected happened. Paul lifted his face in the darkness and whispered a prayer. Silas joined him, and soon, the whisper became a voice, then two voices, then a song. At first it was gentle, like a fragile flame fighting the wind, but it grew, rising above their pain, filling the dungeon with a melody that did not belong in a place like this. Their chains clinked softly with the rhythm as they sang. The other prisoners listened. No one understood it fully, but something about those voices, steady, unwavering, held them. These were men beaten, humiliated, shackled, yet singing like free men. Then, without warning, the ground heaved. A thunderous roar shook the prison. Dust rained from the ceiling. The walls trembled, stones shifted. An earthquake ripped through the floors with such force that the prison doors burst open. Chains slipped from wrists and ankles. The stocks snapped apart. The prisoners stared at one another, stunned. In the outer hall, the jailer jolted awake. He saw the open doors and felt his heart collapse inside him. One glance and he knew what it meant. To lose a prisoner was to lose his life. Failure carried only one sentence: death. Hands shaking, he drew his sword. But before he could raise it, a voice tore through the darkness. Don't harm yourself. We are all here. It was Paul's voice, calm, clear, steady. The jailer froze. Lights were called for, torches flickered to life as he rushed inside, breathless, searching. There they were, Paul and Silas still in their cell, chains lying broken beside them. The jailer fell to his knees, trembling. Nothing in his years of service had prepared him for this. Men who prayed after being beaten, who sang in chains, who stayed when they could flee, who protected the man who had locked them away. He bowed his head, unable to steady his voice. Sirs, what must I do to be saved? What followed was unlike anything he imagined for his life. He took Paul and Silas out of the dungeon, gently washed the wounds the rods had opened across their backs, and in the quiet hours before sunrise, he and his entire household were baptized. The same house that had once echoed with orders and discipline now overflowed with joy. He set food before them, warm bread, simple but heartfelt, and the jailer laughed, a deep, relieved laugh that came from somewhere long shut off inside him. When morning came, messengers from the magistrates arrived with a simple instruction: release the men. But Paul's answer was firm. They beat us publicly without trial, though we are Roman citizens. Let them come themselves and escort us out. Fear washed over the officials when they heard this. They hurried to the prison, apologized, and personally led Paul and Silas toward freedom. Before leaving the city, Paul and Silas stopped at Lydia's home, where believers gathered in quiet anticipation. The room filled with courage as they encouraged the growing church, and then, with steady steps and healed hearts, they continued their journey. Two men who had sung at midnight, shaken the foundations of a prison, and turned a night of chains into a night of salvation.